Hi, welcome to the Pearls and Polish Podcast, episode 65. I'm your host, Rachel, coming to you from just outside Sacramento, California. If you're a new viewer, welcome, and if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. This is my little corner of the internet where I talk mostly about knitting, some crochet, and then whatever I happen to be up to at the time. So let's get started. As always, you can find me on Instagram and Ravelry. Links to those are in the description below, along with all of the makers, designers, dyers, and anyone else I mentioned in today's episode. So make sure you check those out. I didn't have an episode last week. I was on vacation, and I'll tell a little more about that in life updates, but I was able to get a project done while I was on vacation. So we'll do finished objects first. These are my February socks. This is my monthly subscription with Freckled Whimsy, and this one is called Keep Calm and Leprechaun. So as I understand it, whatever the month's theme is for like the following month's holiday. So these are February, but the holiday is obviously St. Patrick's Day in March. So got those done. Really loved the colors that were picked out for this. They're just kind of funky and fun. So I went with the pattern Heel Toe Do-Si-Do by the Crazy Sock Lady. And it has like some increases and decreases and yarn overs. So you create kind of this wave. So you can't see it as well on the blockers, but you can kind of see that these little V's go up and then they'll go down and meet in the middle. And then you flip it and it's the V's going up. So the pattern is just on the top of the sock, not on the back, which was nice. Heel flap and gusset, pretty self-explanatory. These worked up really quickly. Real quick note on the lighting. If the lighting is a little funky, we have like rain clouds going in and out. So it started really late last night and it's just been kind of sprinkling and then it lets up and then it starts to rain again and it lets up. So I think there's a cloud in front of the sun right now because I have a window like right here and it just went really, not really dark, but darker in the room. So note on the lighting, weather. But anyways, really fun pair of socks. I decided to do these as twins. So I started both socks with that light blue and knit the same all the way down, and they match really well. For the heel flap and gusset, so they're both the same. If you will see, let me hide my face. There we go. If you will note, they are the same. So what I ended up doing is I pulled from the center of my yarn cake, and that's where I cast on. So to make sure that I have an even cast on and I start on the right color, I start casting on right where the colors transition. So I have that little strip of whatever the previous color was, and then I know that I start in the exact same spot for both socks. But anyways, I pulled from the center of my cake to cast on my sock, and then when it came to the heel flap, I grabbed from the outside of the cake, and so that way I could make sure I had the same for each sock. So it turned out really nice. I really enjoyed these. I've done the pattern before and it's a great one for self-striping socks. So if you have not tried that one, definitely check that out. All right, moving into works in progress. So somehow I got this kind of fire lit in me that I was going to finish my Battenberg blanket in March. I am doing the Adventurely make-along, and I didn't think I was going to be able to finish this project by the end of the make-along, which is the end of March, but something kind of got triggered and I think I might make it. So it has grown substantially. I will give you kind of a sneak peek. But all of the colored squares are from Woolberry's 24-day Advent from 2024. So I made all my little squares ahead of time during Advent season and a little bit afterwards. And then I've been kind of attaching all of these pieces together. So I made a grid sheet to kind of keep track of what colors were next, how many of each color I needed. So this has been how I keep track. And then as I complete a color, I fill in the box with, my little orange highlighter. And so I'm most of the way done. I only have that like last third. So my reasoning is, or kind of like my game plan. If I do 4 squares a day, for the gray squares a day, I should be able to finish by the end of March, including putting a border around this blanket. So how I do that, I kind of do bounce around. I don't have a one method fits all. I'll show you my cheat sheet. Sometimes I go diagonally. I'll go this way. Oop, diagonals this way. And kind of stripes down. And I might do that for a bit. All those numbers are the day number for the color square. So that's how I kind of keep track of everything. Then I would also do kind of these little groups of 4. So it would be like 18, 17, 11, and 12. And I would do this little middle square that connects all 4 of those. I do that, and then I would attach it around. So yeah, I've just been a little sporadic and slightly chaotic in how I've been attaching everything. Some days I like to do the diagonals, and sometimes I like to do the squares. I've been taking this project as my on-the-go project. I have not been taking the blanket. I've just been taking like 4 squares, put them in my bag, and then I have 3 skeins of the gray that I use to make the hexies. So when I get home from whatever activity I was doing, I can just attach them to the blanket. So it's been working. So we'll see. Hopefully I can get a good chunk of this done. Now, that does mean I have been not spending as much time on my sweater, which I also have here that I'll show you in a second. And I did not start a new project between finishing these and the first of the month. So I had about a week, maybe a little less, where I was exclusively working on this blanket. So my game plan is to exclusively work on this blanket as much as possible and then get it done. I am going to be doing some traveling in the later part of March, so taking this blanket with me is not a feasible choice. So I'm going to kind of push some of my sock projects or my smaller projects towards the end of the month. But that's the plan. So hopefully I will have this done and in its complete glory sooner rather than later. My other work in progress is my Weekender by Andrea Mowry, and I've knit this pattern before. This was the second sweater I had ever knit, and I'm doing Woolberry. Ooh, hold on. Woolberry, it's Bred, and it's this like reddish brown that is just lovely. So it's on their worsted weight. It's 100% superwash merino, 218 yards, 100 grams. I'm loving it. So I will show you kind of the progress. So everything is flipped. It's hard. I feel like it's harder to show progress on a bottom up sweater than it is on a top down sweater. Because it's harder to see like what has actually gotten done, I feel. But this is my sweater. The instructions call for knitting the body 15 inches from the back cast on edge. And I just measured it before I started recording and I am at 10 inches. So hitting that 15-inch mark is not going to be as like long as I thought it was. So I'm actually making some progress. It does help that this is a thicker yarn. They're bigger size needles. So it doesn't take as much to get to that 15-inch mark. This sweater is knit inside out. So you do stockinette in the round, and then when you're done, you flip it inside out so you have this garter stitch. So this is actually what the sweater is going to look like when it's done, and I flip it inside out. And then you have that slip stitch detail in the front and back going up the middle. So I really love that. It's a great kind of oversized cozy sweater. So really love the pattern, really love this color and this yarn. So very excited to finish this eventually. So game plan is I'm going to spend the majority of my time on that blanket so I can finish it. This sweater is a little more portable. I have it in this giant bag. I'll show it to you. I mean, this bag is pretty big. It's like purse size. But that octopus was actually on a tank top that I bought at a second sale, and it just fit really poorly on me. It was very low cut, so I never felt comfortable wearing it. And it didn't look good layered on top of something else. So what I did was I took it to my mom. And I said, can you like cut it up and make a bag out of it? So I was traveling for something, and that was the project my mom and my girls did for me while I was gone. So she made this giant bag, and it has been perfect for my sweaters. My puppy is sitting right next to the door. She wants to be in the room with me, but she also wants to be out of the room. So she's making a little noise if you hear her. But anyways, I have my sweater in this giant bag. It is a little easier to move it into a smaller bag just so I can take like the actual part I'm working on. This bag currently has, let's see if you guys can look in it well. So it has all the skeins of yarn I have for this sweater. I don't wind them all up, but I have them all together. It has all of the needles that I'm using. It has my instructions, and then the 2 skeins that I am currently working off of and the work itself. So very easy to transport that in a smaller bag and take with me places right now before it gets too big. So that is that. I did start another project and then I left it downstairs. So I'm going to put a screenshot on here of what I'm working on. So I have a couple tube sock sets left. So if you're not familiar with tube socks, so there is a sock knitting machine. It's called a circular sock machine, so CSM. And it's this giant thing with gears and cranks and pins. And essentially it knits up a tube like you have for your sock. This is just a giant tube. So you put the yarn in the machine, and then you crank it with this handle and it knits out this whole tube. And people own these. Anyone can buy one of these and you can make socks. You can do short rows with it. You can do cuffs, you can do heels, you can do toes, and then just do a little bit of grafting. And so some people use this as a source of income, and they sell a service of having your yarn cranked into a tube. And then later you go in and you put in your heels, toes, and cuffs. So at one point my stash was getting unreasonably big and I couldn't manage all of it. So I had like 10 skeins of yarn sent out and cranked into tubes. So I've slowly been working through them. And so I wanted like a quick project that I could take with me that wasn't crochet, because I have to look at my hands when I crochet. I don't have to look at my hands when I knit. And so I wanted something that I could work on. One kid had a birthday party. We had an event yesterday. We had an event today. I have another event on Tuesday. So I need something to keep my hands busy. So that was something small, portable, that I can get through quickly. So that's what I grabbed. This yarn is by Ontheround. I'm trying to remember what it was. It's Ontheround, and it's called Dark Star. And I've had this in my stash for a while. So very excited to finally get it worked up and into a pair of socks so I can wear them immediately. So if you have ever worked with a tube sock or had yarn sent out for tube socks, I'd love to know your experience with that. I have had several, like I said, and I'm hoping at some point to put some sort of tutorial or YouTube something on how I turn these tubes into socks. So if you're interested in something like that, let me know in the comments. Moving into February stats. February is over. It was a short month, but it felt like a really long month. This year for 2025, I've decided I'm just going to track my stash, what I started the year with, and then what I finish each month with. So let me show you my knitting planner here. I have the year in 2 pages. It's kind of small, but I started the year over here with 96 skeins. January, I finished the month with 91 skeins, and February I finished the month with 89 skeins. So I am down like 7 skeins. So yay me. I didn't set too many goals as far as like my stash or how many projects I'm going to finish this year, or how many skeins I wanted to be down. I want to finish the year with less than what I started. I think last year I tracked like how many skeins in and how many skeins out, and I'm just gonna chill a little more. I am keeping track of how long it takes me to do a project. So you saw that I just closed it and I'm gonna pull it up again. In these highlighter stripes. So that just kind of tracks how long it takes me to work on something, which has been great in those moments where like I feel I haven't finished anything, it's taking me so long to complete things. And then when you actually look at how long the date range is, it's one of those like, oh, that didn't take me as long. I have thought about tracking like actual days that I work on projects. Like for instance, this weekend sweater, days worked on and days that I just had it in works in progress are going to be 2 very different numbers. So part of me kind of wants to track that just for curiosity, but then that's one more thing I have to track. So I'm still going back and forth on that one. But that's how we are for February. So we're down 7 skeins. Love that. March, it's a new month, 31 days. But we have to have our March giveaway. So this month I am giving away a skein by Craft Me Not. It's one of my favorite dyers. She's going through some health issues right now, but I believe maybe there are some skeins in her ready to ship section of her website. So definitely check that out. It'll be linked down below. But this colorway is called Water Lily, and beautiful colorway, very subtle. It felt very spring, where everything is blooming right now, which is beautiful to look at and awful to experience as far as like allergies. So it just seemed very appropriate with this kind of starting of spring and everything's flowering. So to win this skein of yarn, comment down below. Oh, what do we need to comment? Comment down below if you've ever worked with a sock tube, or you've had your yarn sent out, or you've bought yarn that's been cranked. If you've even heard of having sock tubes, just mention something about sock tubes in the comments below. That will get you entered into this month's giveaway, and I will pull a winner for next week. So keep an eye out for that. Moving right along to reading and watching, I finished To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I stayed up way too late. It was probably close to 1 in the morning. But it was just one of those like, I only have, an hour left. I only have 15 minutes left. I only have 5 minutes left. So I stayed up very late, finished To Kill a Mockingbird. It was a lot slower than I remember. Like I remembered all the highlights and the bigger parts, but it just felt a very slow start. But I very much enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to book club this upcoming week where we get to discuss it. I don't know what's on the menu, but I'll let you guys know next week what we had to go along with this book. So very excited about that. Since I finished my book club book, I started the Excalibur Curse by Kiersten White. This is the last of the Camelot Rising trilogy, so it shouldn't take me too long. I listen to audiobooks quite often throughout my day, which has been great because I can multitask. I can knit and read at the same time. But that's the only book that I am currently listening to right now. Things I'm watching, I'm kind of bouncing around things. When I was on vacation, I started watching The Traitors, which is on Peacock. And at first I thought it was going to be really silly, but then I got hooked on the drama. So came home, got all caught up. So I'm not sure when the next episode comes out, but I watched that, very much enjoyed it, got very emotionally invested in what was going on. Saw the first episode of White Lotus. I haven't gotten around to watching the next 2 episodes, so I need to do that. But other than that, I've just kind of been bouncing around. I started watching Bones. I was like I watched it every week 10 years ago, and really loved it. And I don't remember why I stopped watching it. I never like completed the series. So going back to kind of like an old friend of like, oh yes, I remember really enjoying this show. And now I'm remembering certain episodes that I really enjoyed. So every year, Amy of the Knotted Knitter and I host the Fiber Friends Yarn Swap. It was always the Fiber Friends Sock Swap, but that seemed a little limiting. So we changed it to the Fiber Friends Yarn Swap. Amy hosted it with me last year. We are doing it again this year. Signups will open up March 14th. Keep an eye out on my Instagram and Amy's Instagram. It'll be linked down below. Amy has a YouTube channel here on YouTube, obviously. So that'll be linked as well. So make sure you check that out. Essentially, it's a yarn swap. So we've always said fiber friends are the best friends. And I believe that to be completely true because I've met some of the most amazing people through fiber art, through yarn swaps, and they wouldn't always be people that I would naturally gravitate towards. And yet having that common love for the craft of knitting or crochet or spinning or weaving has just brought a lot of wonderful people into my life. So I wanted to share that with all of you. So we'll have more information on Instagram and here on YouTube, but keep an eye out for that. It's a lot of fun, very low risk. We try to make it as enjoyable as possible for everyone involved. And then life updates. Like I said, I was on vacation. I went to San Diego to visit my sister. She lives down there, and this is like the 4th or 5th trip that I've done that I kind of bump up around my birthday. So I go by myself. I leave husband and kids at home, and I spend 2 or 3 days with my sister in her city and just spend some quality time with her. So we start our list of things we want to see or do, or restaurants or coffee shops we want to visit, like in February for the following year. And we have this running list, and then we go through and we decide what do we actually want to do or have time to do. So I had planned on doing some sort of like vlog of my trip, and I did really well for the first 2 days, and then I stopped taking pictures and video. So I only have like 2 days worth of things that we did, even though I was there for 3 days. But highlights of the trip, Thursday, we were just all over the city. We had facials, we had amazing chilaquiles. We did a calligraphy, I was going to say scribe. We did a calligraphy class with dip pens. My sister and I are both trying to teach ourselves modern calligraphy with brush pens. So dip pens are a little different, very similar to my fountain pens. So I was able to kind of catch on rather quickly, but really enjoyed that. It was through a group called Sip and Script, and they have classes all over the country. So if you are into fancy writing and want to try something new, definitely check that out. It'll be linked down below. But yeah, we had amazing food and we had amazing ice cream. On Friday, we did hot yoga. The last time I did hot yoga was like the first year I was married, and I really enjoyed it. And I have done it a couple times and then didn't continue with it. I exercise fairly regularly. I feel like I'm fairly like, not fit, but like I have endurance. I can do hard things. Hot yoga was a whole nother level. It was more like a HIIT class because we had weights and there was lots of moving around, but in a 100-degree class. And so it was very hot, and you'd never realize how much sweat can come out of your body in places that are not like normal. Like my elbows were sweating. It was very draining. And if it hadn't been for the heat, I think I would have been fine. But the heat just adds that extra level of spice and endurance. But it was a great class. The instructor was wonderful. He had so much energy for 10 o'clock in the morning, and I loved it. So very much recommend if you haven't tried it out. We went to Yoga Box, but I'm sure you can find hot yoga just about anywhere these days. What else did we do that day? We had lots of really great food. There's always great food in San Diego wherever you go. We spent a lot of time in North Park, which is one of the kind of communities in that area. Love North Park. And then Saturday, which was my last day there, we did puppy yoga. And that was the most fun, amazing time ever. So it's exactly what it sounds like. You do some yoga and it's very like flow, restorative, very slow moving, which was what I needed because I was super sore from the day before. And then they have these puppies, and sometimes the puppies are from reputable breeders. Sometimes they're from rescue groups. And they bring the puppies out and they play for like 10-15 minutes. And then you finish your yoga practice with some deep breathing, and the puppies run around and just be puppies. And it was just so much fun. I laughed so much, and it was a good, healthy laughing. So did that. Definitely check out to see if that's available in a city near you. And then we just hung around the area that was held in. I think it was called Bird Rock, and went to all sorts of restaurants and bakeries and tried fun things. So yeah, really enjoyed it. Highly recommend all of those things. And that was my birthday trip. And then I went home and I was ready to do the next, couple months with my family. So really great, kind of relaxing, rejuvenating trip. As far as the rest of March, we have so many things going on. Kids have multiple birthday parties and field trips and taekwondo things and tournaments, and my husband has lots of things. He works in education, so he's got all sorts of things going on. I've got all sorts of things going on. I have a trip coming up at the end of the month. So it's just going to be a busy month. There's always going to be something, which in a way is good because there's no room for boredom. At the same time, if I am not careful, I can get overwhelmed. So being very mindful of my schedule and everyone else's schedule and making sure that everyone gets the downtime that they need to be able to do the next thing. Well, that is our episode today. I know it was a little on the shorter side, a little on the chattier side, but I always enjoy spending some time with you guys. And I will see you guys next week with a new episode.